My name is George Heavyrunner. Of course, I'm a member of the Blackfeet tribe, and I served on the advisory board at the college for this program, and I was asked to do a presentation. You know, and I'm not a professional researcher in that regard, and done papers and stuff, and just what have you. But I'm an elder now, a little over 67 years old, and so when I first started to embark about this interest about tribal leadership, or leadership in general, of course, you start out in your community, you serve on boards, and I was fortunate to then get elected on the school board many moons ago. Did that, participated a couple terms, and then my interest nodded towards the legislature, the Montana State Legislature, and I'm pleased to see our State Senator Weber's in the audience, and she's done a wonderful job down there, and she has a bill that recently was passed to dedicate a portion of the highway to Earl Operson, our leader for many years. So I had the fortunate experience to serve 2 terms in the legislature, and really got to see the other side, if you will, of how the state of Montana does their work, how they interact with their citizens, and in some respects, a tribal council in a legislature are really a citizen legislature. You can go to the Capitol, you can lobby, you can go and sit in hearings and stuff. It's a little tougher when you're talking about Congress in Washington, D.C. Not so easy there, huh? And it seems like sometimes we never see them until election time, huh? And then after that, I was fortunate to get to be elected on the tribal council for 1 term. Back then, they were 2-year terms there. And so and now I'm a recovering politician, so I don't do any of that kind of stuff anymore. But I'm still involved in different fronts. Presently, right now, I serve as the chairman for the SAIP board directors for their corporation, a business arm under the tribe. And I was just upstairs and come down, and we were meeting with the Federal Reserve Bank out of Minneapolis. They're interested in community development, so we were pleased that we're meeting with them, and perhaps some opportunities may arise for us. And so, why this topic, huh? Well, I've always been interested in the early years of before the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act. It was almost to me like the Dark Ages. Remember the Dark Ages? There was no information what happened to that degree, and I kind of felt that way. And so I worked at the Blackfeet Community College, by the way, and so one day I was in the library, and that's where I worked, and I decided to do some Googling, and I hit up Blackfeet tribal councils. And I was surprised, very surprised. If we could turn to the next slide. I was very surprised to find out that from about 1912 to I guess about 1920, there already existed tribal councils. I didn't know that. I didn't know they had. They called them the agricultural districts. I was not aware that there was minutes, so I sent for them on microfiche, and to this day I wish I would. I don't know what I did with the copies, but I was really blown away by before the IRA Act, that we actually were trying to form types of leadership venues. We had a lot of our people back then were the full-bloods on there, huh? And they served. And then there was another person on there that had some great influence on those early tribal councils. So if you get a chance, and maybe I can get that information later, and if you want to access those minutes, they're really revealing about what was our thought process about in terms of our language and our culture and our burgeoning resources at the time. Because remember, we just were put on tribal reservations. And once we were there, then the government started to ask, well, then what are we going to do with that land? Huh? And it's interesting that if you could just turn to the next slide, I had an opportunity to review this book. I don't know how I did it, but somebody contacted me. And this gentleman, his name is Paul Rozier, and he wrote this book, Rebirth of the Blackfoot Nation, 1912 to 1954. That opened the window for me, if you will, about understanding where we came from. And so this book should be taught at the colleges. There's probably a semester that needs to do that. And so why would I want that to happen? Well, I think if you're going to be a good citizens of the United States, a good citizens of Montana, you need to be a good citizen of your tribe. You need to know your history. You need to understand how things started. Everything has a beginning. And I was just talking with Don here about something that I'll get into a little bit later. So this person starts to talk about, from his research, after the Allotment Act, when they started to allot tracts of land to our people, and then in 1907, I believe, they had a further one where then, what are you going to do with that leftover land, huh? I mean, and we should sell it. In our case, if you could turn the slide, the interest was really garnered by, as they called back then, the mixed bloods, who had some formal education and what have you. And so the discussion from the federal government and those factions, and I say factions, the full bloods and the mixed bloods, was the interest of the east side of our reservation. A lot of that is primarily agriculture land, and in reading in this book, several people say, well, that land just sitting there. You know, it has to do something. We got to till the ground and grow something. They couldn't understand that that there's nothing wrong with it just being there, huh? But so that was the push. If you're not going to do anything with that land, then we should use it for other purposes. And we had people from our tribe that was pushing it too. And it was fascinating during that time too, is that a lot of factions or delegations went out to D.C. When we went in those early years, we went out to the White House or with Congress. We didn't have Zoom or anything, so there was trips that our delegations would go out there, spend a month maybe or more, and then the factions would go out there too, because then they would sit in front of Congress and argue about what we can do with the resources of our land. And so that's was really interesting to me, and I want to read this. And this was Senator Harry Lane. He had a lot of involvement on tribal federal policy in the early years. He said, if the condition of the Blackfoot Indians at this time is to be taken as an index of the character of trusteeship, which the government imposes upon other Indians, the work has been a failure. And yes, and so, and this gentleman too. How many know about Robert Hamilton of our tribe? You guys familiar with this individual? His name is Robert Hamilton. He says the blame lies with governmental supervision. Robert Hamilton, to me, is kind of my unsung hero. He went to Carlisle Indian School, graduated there, came back, and he really was the voice, if you will, for the full-bloods at the time. He understood the constructs of what was going on with federal Indian policies to start having to extract our resources, and our agent, several agents at the time, working in concert with some of the mixed bloods who were rich white ranchers, and they were in it for themselves, not the we, but the I. And so this gentleman was kind of appointed by the full-bloods, if you will, and subsequently he was on those early tribal councils. He was really the Jiminy Cricket, if you will, to all the shenanigans going on, because he understood what was going on, and he'd go out to D.C. and testify that this sharing of the wealth was not in a good way for the traditional people. And as he went out there several times, the other faction would try to vilify him. They called him a horse thief. He was a rapist. He was anything to degrade this individual that was standing up and speaking the truth, if you will, about the extortion, about the abuse and the corruptions that were going on. So if you get a chance, I was trying to look for one of his pictures, but yeah, he was really a thorn in people's side, especially the federal government, because when he would go to the hearings out there in D.C., in fact, he was instrumental in getting one of our agents fired that was in collusion with all this stuff that was going on. He was an agent in McFactridge. As a result of that hearing out there, they fired him. Who did they replace him with? The same kind of people, right? And so if I can just take a moment there, and the other thing that I was interested when I was reading this book is that why do we fight so much amongst each other? Huh? How do we came to not be able to get to a point of having conversations and things like that? Well, there's a start from that. And that's when they started the federal government come onto our reservation, and they started to use the people on the system to fight each other, the different factions. And that has evolved since 1934, it's about 88 years since we've had the IRA Constitution, so we've learned how to fight good. But to work together, we've got a lot of work to go. So my one partner, who was a treasurer of the tribe, told me, well, George, we're pillagers, not barn raisers, so it's in our blood to always be going at each other. I thought that was pretty funny at the time about his thoughts about that. So, and that's really important, because as we evolve and go to the, could you change the next slide, to the era of adopting a constitution and working on a charter, when you read the book, it's just fascinating of how the battles that were going on. And John Collier, who was kind of the author or the savior for the Indian Reorganization Act, was really interested in the Blackfeet tribe. In fact, our tribe was one of the first tribes to adopt the Constitution, and we even went on the traveling roadshow with him. People on our council, they would go down and they'd meet with the Great Plains, and they would tell, like sitting in this room and telling all the rest of the tribes, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, so you guys better sign up. So I think we were instrumental in a lot of the tribes following our lead, and so Collier kind of had a fondness for us, and even though years after that, the Constitution was adopted, our people used to complain, but Collier didn't want to hear it. He was still up there in Congress because the experiment wasn't working. Probably day 2 after it was adopted, and our people would start to complain, but he didn't want to hear it because this was his model, and he was going to push this thing through no matter what. So there, and I like this, the New Deal, and I see my cousin and my in-law there right at the door. This is what there was said, and this was from Walter Liggett. He was a Senate investigator, and I'm not sure how much you know about the Merriam Report, but it was an investigation to go out there in Indian country. The report basically said is that the tribes are in trouble, they're starving, the poverty. Things are going on, and you've done a lousy job as a federal government in putting these people on reservations and not helping them. So this investigator said there is ample evidence that for a long period of years, the head officials at the Blackfoot Reservation have been more interested in advancing the interests of a few whites and favored mixed bloods than they have been in conserving the property of the Indians. And old Rise at the Door was on the tribal council. Did you know that, Smokey? Way back then, before the IRA Act, he was on the council. He was one of our esteemed leaders. He said, give us a fair new deal. As we know ourselves, the old system is no success. And I think that was a comment that I think a lot of the full-bloods felt at the time. We're just not, it's not working for us, but it seems to be working for those select few that are in concert with the agent and the people in Congress. So there was a great disparity of wealth there. So in 19 35 or 34, we started to the debate about this Constitution, And there was this old gentleman there, no coat, and he said, well, back then the Indians called it the Wheeler-Howard Act. Remember, it was never the Indian Reorganization Act. It was the Wheeler-Howard, because those were the congressional people that passed this bill in Congress. He said, I don't understand this Wheeler-Howard Act. If somebody could tell me what it means and how it works for me, then I'll embrace it. But I just don't understand what's going on. It's basically saying, what is this Constitution? Way back then, we didn't have those. We had our societies, our leaderships. We had shared governance, responsibilities. Went to societies and all based upon for survival. Our leaders, probably the poorest people, they gave their food away and they helped out and things there. Those are good things when we say we, And I liked what Don said about that. But again, times change, and we have to move on to this system and embrace it, basically, whether we liked it or not. It was just a process for that. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And it's going to take a whole semester for me to get into after the Indian Reorganization Act was passed, and where we have been since there. It's a lot of years, a lot of tweaks with our Constitution. We created a charter. Have many people read our Blackfoot Tribal Charter? Now, that really struck our people, because when they created this Indian Reorganization Act, they used it on a model of a corporation. So not only do you have the chairman, the vice chairman, the secretary, you even have a sergeant at arms. And one gentleman was telling me the tribe's going to advertise for a sergeant at arms. I couldn't believe it. I thought, geez, talk about embracing the corporate board. I guess we're going to do that. And so that's where we're at. In 1964, our people passed amendments to our Constitution trying to help our leaders. One of the amendments that were put in was to insert the name Business Council. Now, I don't think it meant for only the council to do the business, but it said in there so they would act in a business-like manner. And part of that, they created another administrative arm in our Constitution called a Plan of Operations. And so that Plan of Operations was kind of like the executive branch. It had the rules of the game for the tribal council to police themselves or not. We created our finance system, our personnel system. Those kind of constructs started to be added to our Constitution. We've done several tweaks since. We have an amendment where we expanded your term of office on the tribal council to 4 years instead of 2. And I look back at that, and that's probably one of the biggest regrets that I was for it. And the reason why I guess I thought it was a good idea, because the idea was this: if you have staggered terms and people serve 4 years and some people go out, at least you have a body there that has been working on projects or things, and then they'll work with the new incoming group, and things can get done. There'll be some continuity. Didn't work. Now people are saying, God, it was better off when they were there for 2 years instead of 4. Now we're really suffering. So anyway, that was an amendment that our people thought that this situation could be improved if we start working together, getting back to the we. And it just hasn't, in my view. And then the other one is we instituted one to recall officials. That's in our Constitution now. You can petition to the tribe, and then you'll have a vote whether you want to remove officials or not. I'm not sure if we're there yet to do that. We developed election rules. One of our esteemed attorneys way back then, Vicki Santana, helped write the original election rules that govern our election, create our different geographical districts and just what have you there. And getting back to this, There have been several attempts over the years by our people, mainly people from the community, not so much the tribal council themselves, is to try to reform our constitution. Maybe to sit down and look at a different way of how we can improve that document that was built upon a corporate board structure. And I always say that the system isn't broken, it was built this way. It wasn't designed for us to have success. It was not, and it continues, in my view, to lay the groundwork for a lot of trouble that we give ourselves. And so I got involved in that when a former councilman named Joe McKay, as an attorney, decided to try to approach the subject of constitutional reform. And again, we decided, a small group, to meet once a week on a Tuesday. We'd break bread together, have our prayers, and then we would talk about the present Constitution, okay? And we went through that. This was like 3 years of discussion. And then we started to move to say, okay, so what can we do to write a new constitution? It was back and forth about, no, let's just take out certain provisions. I was an advocate in our present constitution. I believe it's 13 or 14 times. It says in there, with the permission of the Secretary of the Interior. So the overhanded heaviness is still in our constitution. In fact, well, one of the things, we can't even hire our own tribal attorney. The BIA has to approve it. Would you believe that? It's still in our constitution. So I was an advocate. Let's take that out. And one of the other things that could have happened if this reform would have passed, it would have taken the role of the Bureau out of our business in terms of our constitution. There was a law passed that if the tribe, through a secretarial election, they approve a new constitution, the BIA has no more to say about that. And we can tweak our own constitution. We don't have to wait. If you try to do your secretarial election, it's a lengthy process. You've got to work with the Bureau. They've got to, they jump in and they do all the election work, all to the ballots, and they have a board to do that. And so we were strong advocates of removing them so that we could decide those things ourselves. And I guess it didn't work. I just want to read something that Joe McKay, in an article when he was interviewed. And McKay said, there's a single word that describes why we are sitting in this room today. He said, power, the use and abuse of power. He said, the council has absolute power. So if you muster the majority of the council, you can control everything, McKay said. It doesn't matter how unethical, illegal, unjust it might be, as long as you have the votes and the power, you control everything. And in that setting, societies don't flourish, they go backwards. That was his viewpoint. And another lady that was opposed to the Constitution, this is what she said. She said, if our old Constitution didn't work because our council members wouldn't uphold it, what makes you think a new Constitution will be any better? And that was kind of sad to have that sense of resignation, you know, are we exercising futility here? And so we were able to get it to a vote. It lost, you know, and let me just back up a second. And one of the things that Joe started to take this effort in this community effort was in 2012. We call around here on Blackfoot the meltdown, if you will. We had a constitutional crisis. We had two factions on the tribal council split apart, and they would not meet with each other. They put us in economic strife as employees. We couldn't get paid, and there was this back and forth, and pretty soon it wasn't. So we asked the Bureau, well, where are you at? They said, oh, we can't touch that. That's your internal business, huh? And so they selectively backed away to not be involved in that. And so who started to be our broker? It was the bank. And the bank said before we passed the dollars to pay everybody, what have you, then both sides have to come down and sign that, huh? And so it was stressful to our people. I think it was in my view, a recognition that our system really was broke. And I thought that after the new election came and they elected some new leaders, that we were going to have like a blue ribbon commission and investigate why did this happen. How can we get to a point and our leadership will be so far apart that they can put us in peril? But nothing was done. And we just went on and kept on going and kind of forgot about it, but we really should have been at that point in time, should have had some discussion of where we're at, where do we want to go, and how we're going to get there together. And it didn't happen. It just it kind of blew me away that we didn't take that opportunity. And so here we are today with these type of things and dealing with each other. This last one you see at the bottom is called the Sai Corporation. About 23 years ago, the Tribal Council decided to use a provision in the 638 Act to create a for-profit corporation. And so it started out on the basis that we were going to do wind energy. We were going to get some windmills and get going, and we were going to try to dabble into that to see what happened that and whether we could make some money on that. A lot of our efforts from 35 to today have been efforts from our leadership to develop our resources or not develop our resources and to do different things. And whether it works or not, I guess the proof is in the pudding if you look back for the last 80-some years. So the corporation they manage the casino here, they manage the hotel, the grocery store, the gas kiosk. We built with the council, this is all with the council, a gas kiosk for Hartview, or people that live about 32 miles away south. Had a heck of a time during the winter to get fuel to come into town. Some of them would load their cars up with containers, and dangerous to do that. So we're fortunate to work with the council to get that gas kiosk. And presently, right now, we're building them a grocery store because that was another need, And we're excited about that we're going to provide that service to the people out there. And again, that's the corporation working in concert with the tribal leadership. A couple of years ago, we sat down and we did some strategic planning as a board, and we had some of the council there, and we decided we needed to have a bigger footprint along the front. Now, as you know, west of us is Glacier National Park, and on the average, 2 to 3 million people go through there. And is there any way that we could take advantage of that particular economy, kind of building an off-ramp, if you will, so that people would stop and spend their money? And it was still a challenge. As we met with the Great Falls Development Authority, and they told us most people are so self-contained now, they just stop and get gas and a few things and they head on out. They're not stopping in towns like Great Falls or Missoula because they already have everything with them. And so what we did is up in East Glacier, there's a convenience store up there that the tribe bought. So Sai is managing that convenience store. Several months ago, we bought a restaurant up there called The Peak. Now that's, if you ever get a chance, go up there, they got great food, And then the tribe's latest effort up in East Glacier is that they're going to have a pizza business up there, And so I think those are our movements to try to take advantage of that population. We've had discussions about perhaps having a gaming facility in St. Mary's, a little bit closer, and maybe if we went further north, we could see what we do is working with our sister tribes up in Canada. We talked with one about your Timothy up there that you export all over the world, to Japan and different places like that, and they had interest in sections of our land up north to grow that Timothy and to see if we can get in with them, and that never went to any fruition there. Finally, and I'll take off my Sai hat. This book here, to me, is a historical document. It's a phone book. Now, why would that be a historical document? Well, several years ago, we were in Montana, we're under these co-ops, an electric co-op, phone co-op. Well, this particular area, which is most of the Blackfoot Reservation, was under the Three Rivers Cooperative. Well, we decided to look at that and see if they were really providing the service to our people, and they were not. They get a subsidy every year from the FCC in DC to run that operation. And so after we started doing research, what we found is the money they would get, they exported it to create their businesses way east of us, to Bozeman and all that. And here we are with the new technology for fiber and everything, and most of our system is copper. And so we've been drastically neglected. So what we did, with the help of the tribal council, we bought out that exchange. And now we own the telephone company and the internet services. We're one of the few in Indian country to be the owners of a telephone company. And now we're going to start building out broadband to the whole reservation. We just got a grant that Biden, he appropriated about $1 billion to Indian country and said, basically, if you can put the proposal to us, we'll fund you to build broadband out, because we're very underserved in Indian country with this technology. So we were funded $32 million just to do that, and now we are working to build out broadband on the reservation. It'll be in the ground, probably some wireless, but we're excited that new business is working. And like I said, when I first seen this phone book, I thought it was just awesome. It's a testament to this thing that is working out there in Indian country. And what's working out there is tribes are forming these corporations to do the business work on behalf of their people. And hopefully there's enough political insulation where the tribal councils basically step back some ways, have trust in their corporations to do the business for them. And it's working. In Oklahoma, the Ho-Chunk tribe out of Nebraska, there are a lot of examples out there where this new movement of corporations is working. And what they're doing is, and getting back to that charter, when this gentleman told me last night about my speech, I said, well, what do you want? He said, all I want is my dividend, huh? And that gets back to that corporate mentality, right? It's my share, and where's my money, and I want it now, huh? But what those corporations are doing out there is they're reinvesting some of their wealth from gaming primarily back into other types of businesses. And I think that's where we need to do that, what wealth we get to reinvest it. And we don't do that. Many years ago, we called the big claim. We were awarded about over $30-some million. And so what were we going to do with it? We had a big old meeting similar to this in the gymnasium. So we said, what are we going to do with that money? Huh? Well, the majority of people said, it's my money and I want it now. Others were saying, geez, if we invested that for 10 years, we could probably do very well off the interest of that, and that could grow exponentially. But again, that gets back to the history, you know, we like to work together. Well, it's where's my dividend? I don't care about reinvesting it. I just want my money, and that's unfortunate. So we can go to the last slide, and then I'll wrap this up. Okay, so where do we go from here, huh? Now this picture in the middle is the artwork of my daughter. She did this when she was in 8th grade, huh? And I'll explain why I put that picture in there, because I think it really has significance for our future. Of course, there's Mountain Chief on one side, and our esteemed leader for many years, Earl Operson, who just recently passed away. And I don't fault any individuals on the tribal council or blame them. They have been trying to do their best, but it's the system there that either inhibits them or encourages types of potential corruption, making bad business decisions, etc. And in this picture in the middle, I asked her why she did that. Here, just being an 8th grader, now she's 32 years old. She said, well, when I looked at some of the things, she said, this is what our people would do. They would sit together, there was the pipe, and they would have conversations, they would listen with respect, and they would talk about we and what's better for our people and those types of things. And I think that's where we need to maybe kind of start to think about this Constitution that we have here. We're not going to reform it, then we should at least try to put our differences aside and start to get to some point of having some responsible discussions of who are we, where do we want to go, how are we going to get there, and why is this important for our future generations? We have to leave them something, and I really believe a conversation has to happen. I advocated some time ago, like we used to do, let's go camp for 2 weeks, and then you can spend the week and get it all out of your system. We'll just let you go and you can rant or anything, but at some point, then we're done. Then let's start talking about what are we going to do for the betterment for our future generations. It's fortunately for our culture. It's important to learn our language. That's why we're having this conference today. Let's bring back some of that as cultural medicine to our people, so we can start to heal and start to realize that we're not the enemy. This intertribal racism is not good. You know, we have to start putting those things aside. Even though we were well taught how to do these over 80 years, we really learned how to fight good, boy. I tell you, there's nobody can fight better than Blackfeet when it comes to issues there. But when it comes to working together, I think we have spare resources. And I just want to challenge the Blackfeet Community College in my closing here, is that, you know, they're our educational institution. I've always viewed them as kind of a political free zone. I think they need to start to take the lead and to create these forums of a conversation about where we're at and where do we want to go, and do it in a good way. I just don't think we can continue to go down in this experiment with this Indian Reorganization Act and continue to see the failures and the strife that happens. So it's not good. It's just not good. So I don't know if you have any comments or anything, but I just need to end with this. I won't be here for the rest of the conference. I've been involved in an issue over west with my daughter. My granddaughter a couple months ago was struck and killed on the Flathead Indian Reservation. And it's been 2 months, and we've been having a very difficult time in working with the investigative agencies about seeking justice for us. And so there are a lot of people here on our Blackfeet Reservation, I'm sure up north. Why aren't these investigative agencies doing anything? And all they tell you, well, we can't do nothing because it's under investigation. So it just gets quiet. Pretty soon, I think it's like you wither on the vine. She lives in Arlie, so they have 4 days of walks. So they started in Arlie, and tomorrow they're going to end up at Polson at the courthouse, where the county attorney is there. So we've been using the modes of social media to put pressure on this, but we have a lot of stories to tell about this system of justice. And if you see Lady Justice, she's got a blindfold on, right? Because you shouldn't be looking at your color of your skin and all that to dole out justice to it. And just the opposite of that, there is a gentleman over there that struck and killed somebody, and he was an Indian. And the way they describe it, it was real accidental, but he got 35 years in prison. They unturned every stone to convict that person and put him in jail. And so it's not equal justice under the law. So we're going to go finish the walk over there. It's been a very tough time, but we'll work our way through it. And I had the chance to Zoom meeting with the Flathead Tribal Council and talk to this council, is that we need to go to a different level with respect to this. And what would that be? And hopefully our representative from the state legislature, the senator, will help us. In the constructs at Congress, they have Senate or congressional field hearings. You can go out. They actually leave the old place in D.C. and they can go out and have hearings. That mechanism is in the law, so we're going to do that. And we have 2 representatives on the Senate Select Committee on Indian Affairs. And so we need to start to put pressure on them to come out and have these hearings in Indian country and start to talk about why are things happening to our people and nothing is being done. And so I encourage the Flathead Tribal Council to take that up, and I'll certainly encourage our tribe, and if we can do it for the rest of the tribes in Montana, I think that would really bring some light to this frustration that you just won't believe in trying to work with the state entities, even the tribal and the federal there. So that's where we're at, and we're hoping some good things might come for that, and just ask for your prayers to support our efforts and finally get some justice for our people. So I'll just end with that.
Okay. Itaniko Mutsaouta. Ogina, Epita, Naguans. Mitsukoyata Umuski. Mitsui Io Skatsin Stunkanakatsin. Ivoni Pitama, Stukitsin. And Higara Pass, that's been. O grazie unitax di mazzitsins. Chi vuole pitama che ni mazzpio tu pinan akkanita kakatsi. Aiuta. Ni gara paas katspin. O jaatsa unitaka apätsikkonistaks io pitama. Tekotaks siitä nää mi kuukomikilsen. Maakin. Itse mahtakin. Takat semuistaakseni. Okei. Minäksi ei kaikki mahti. Minäksi se mahtetään enää ei mummua. Ja natsomitääks kakkoit poutuukin. Minäksi ohkiin ja kuinkaan. Enää ouka. On muukin. Akikat samoisiktumaan ennomaakin tuo. Sokaa ja kitkääpynsä. Akit se sokaa ja kitkääpynsä. Akatsit sokaa kipäätäpilasi. Niin setää. Enää nähtiin, kun natsottunua pohpatskin haaman tuussu. Koko sinun sakit sinun siipuosi. Kipäätäpilasi. En jää pohpat semmoista. Kiamutsia vattaatuna. Akohtastuaksi. Iksokaa. We're going to pray today. We've been asked by Red Moon Woman to say a prayer for this gathering. And I'm asked by our spiritual partner, Holy Singing Woman, to help out with this month. The woman was given the right to burn sweetgrass. We're going to ask prayers for the gathering to be holy, that we all take something good back to our communities. And remember, Nitsitak, the real people, were very powerful before contact. Our old people lived well over 100 years old. They drank good, clean water, eating meat, abundant. And we had a strong governance while we maintained a large tract of land. That's how powerful we were. Our language was strong. Our spirituality was strong. After contact, progress started to happen. Pollution. Our people became weak. We started losing our language. A new religion was given to us that did a lot of damage to our people. We have to go back to the old ways if we want to be powerful again and start relearning what we want. So we're going to say a prayer for you, and we're going to let the sweet grass that we all think that means it like real people, and that we continue having a good relationship. Pray for the Spirit people that here, the new group that has started the circle camp. Support. Those are your holy people. Pray for all the people that are practicing our way of life, that their prayers continue to be strong. They pray for the communities every day, every month. Pray for them. Pray for our elders, our young people. Hi. Ayaw mo kita kaapi na coach. Okay. And I congratulate the Pianinas. And siya kinukuan siya. What's this? You know that. Unukabita. Isikuya. And now kita kita kaya kamatusin. And now ipumwa. Yun sa akin mo sa akin nagsuskuan na ispanuya niya kisukati. O kamat sa awa tuwapsit sa akin spungsta kaya simus ka. Nakitakis ko na tapya kinumaki kakapins ka to. Aki ko sa tapitsin pa kinyakin sukapya kinakapaskitin na. Aki ko muna sa kamat siya kinakatapilsin na. And yakin yung kapikatapilsin na. Nitsepoksin na. O kinitsinanin namin sa akin, nakatitskutin natin yung kakakstiman. Ay nanapi ko na kimatsikatsto. O katswan, pero ako katstimatin yung matusiman. O wag ka kiniskana, kinitsuya ko tayo. Kahata, sipo yan. Ay yakin na tuwap yakin, piniman natin, apyuka na, actually so ka. Kemi sa kinapya, o kinaachipo yan, kaya kristiko yan. Akikato yan, kaya chipo sinaki. Ano maki, nakapasumo sa ki, na itong kitapya, inaasitapya, kaya chilimaki chipo sinaki. O kisokapya, kikikakin sa kanitskiman na nanin sa ki. Kaya mapita, kininaistakatapya pa. Ena na doa pitapia kinet ko kinana kiniba ani chepo sina. Ena chichepo to kinani to sina. Ena net ko kinana ka chimus ka amato sina. Ena kina doa pia. O maxina. Kema pita kinka ki chis ko yaki. Jeko ta sina ka kinaka to ko ki o ki mo ni pitaba kina doa ska ki. O ki takita chimus ka. Netsa ko kiyeka kibatumi na. O ki litsa panisok to pinaninya kistinetsumana. Kema to kinana kinato siya kinaktis ko ya kaksoka. Amot siya yung kitapit sa isang kukapay na pinigyan. Kanya kinina pumakya. O kinitsa kamato sina sa kawa mato sina ak sa piya kinya kinatwa po Jesus. Enya kyo kita pisna. O kikimo kinana sikapya kya kinama kyo chipos. Eso kya kumunstawa chakto. Ako manistas kunata kya sikapya kya. O kikamo kan squatsma. Ye kame kaya.